Baby Boomer fans, we are Jackie and Janine, the Pfeiffer sisters, and love to talk about the 1950s, inviting you to reminisce with us as we explore experiences of that decade. Grab your favorite malt or Green River, make sure you are wide awake, and get ready to be inspired about the 1950s. Welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat. Greetings, everybody. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood, at least in our neck of the woods in Ames, Iowa. How about at your house, Jackie?
I'm afraid not. We're fogged in.
Oh, okay.
But yesterday was beautiful.
Yes, wonderful. Yeah, it kind of comes our way from Washington. This is another great Fun Chat, and I think it particularly touches us because the events of this location occurred in our life, and we were part of this outstanding area in North Dakota. And Jackie, where are we going with this?
Well, before we go anywhere, we're going to remind people to check out that banner below. www.whilethewindmillwatch.com is where you can get all sorts of information about this Fun Chat, previous Fun Chats, and this is number 182. So we've had a little bit of experience with Fun Chats. We've learned a lot too about this modern era of the 1950s. I call it modern history. The book is While the Windmill Watched, A Slice of Rural America in the 1950s, and it spurred this Fun Chat. So we're going to begin today by asking this question. What personal and professional qualifications would prepare a person to be an events coordinator of 2,400 acres, which encompasses formal garden and a world-class and cacti and succulent conservatory, and prairies and forests and lakes? Well, we will learn that answer from Debra McCallum. She will also give us the fascinating history of what is known as the International Peace Garden. Debra McCallum was born just north of the 49th parallel in Delorean, Manitoba, and was raised on a farm 7 miles east of that town. Debra has earned a Bachelor of Education degree, a graduate diploma in special education, and a Bachelor of Physical Education degree. She is married, has 3 grown children, 2 daughters and a son, and 2 grandchildren. Debra and her husband currently reside on his family farm near a place called Rural Municipality of Beausevain, Morton. So welcome to the 1950s Fun Chat, Debra.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, we're looking forward to hearing about this Peace Garden and about your involvement in it. So can you tell us then what qualifications and experiences prepared you for your current position at the International Peace Garden?
Well, I think that is twofold. And first of all, it would be my experience with children. I've got over 30 years experience with children in different capacities. And I was daycare nursery school director and preschool educator and a educational assistant. So working in the schools, helping teachers. And then once I got my degrees, then I embarked on a teaching career. So ended up teaching grades 1 to 12 throughout my over 20 years in education. And I was a resource teacher and a principal for 7 years.
What a dedicated life to education.
Yes. Love children. Yeah. And then the other piece would be my experience here at the Peace Garden. So I was I guess you could call me a permanent summer staff for 30 years before I assumed my current position as education and volunteer coordinator. And that involved working various areas of the garden. So I was gift shop, front gate, tours, and I did 6 years in interpretive programming. So through all of that, there's, just the skills, really communication is key. I've met thousands of people here from all over the world. It's a great place because I get to meet people, but I don't have to travel anywhere to meet them. They come to me. And so just developing those communication skills, working as a team, learning how to work with different people.
Okay. So we thank you for that background. And now let's focus on the International Peace Garden itself. So Deborah, will you please start from the beginning, the inception of the garden, how it was constructed, how it was funded, and how it's developed over the years. So that's a big, long monologue coming our way.
All right. Okay. So I'm just going to start with how the garden began. And it actually, I do have a picture here of this gentleman, Dr. Henry Moore. And he was from Islington, Ontario. And in 1928, he had this idea for a garden to commemorate at that time 115 years of peace between Canada and the United States. So Dr. Moore was a horticulturist. He took his training in Kew Garden in the UK, and he also taught at university. And so in 1929, he presented this idea at the National Association of Gardeners annual meeting in Toronto, Ontario. And it received a unanimous support. Over 900 horticulturists there supported his idea for this garden. And from there, a committee was established, a committee of 3. And I thought, oh, just 3. And I've since confirmed that in the minutes. It was a committee of 3, and they began to search for a site for this proposed garden. And so they flew over the border area, and it ended up coming down to 2 locations, one being in Niagara Falls in Ontario, and one being here in the Turtle Mountains. And they ended up doing a site inspection here on June 2nd of 1931. William Udall, who was the newspaper editor of the Boys of AIM Recorder from 1904 to 1945, was really instrumental in influential with the garden and doing a lot of coverage. But before that, he was really a huge push for the garden to be located here. So he arranged for a site inspection, and the committee came here and inspected the site June 2nd of 1931. And it was actually accepted as the place that they would have this International Peace Garden, September 19th of that year. And the land was officially donated by the province of Manitoba and the state of North Dakota, December 2nd of 1931. And just to back up a little bit with, why located here? Why was it located here? What were some reasons that kind of led to the garden to be in this area? So when they flew over the area, a quote with Dr. Moore, he said, "What a sight greeting the eye, those undulating hills rising out of the limitless prairies are filled with lakes and streams. On the south of the unrecognizable boundary, wheat everywhere, and on the north, the Manitoba Forest Reserve." So it was like, what a place for a garden. And so it was really the setting, the deciduous forest cover, the numerous lakes and streams connecting the lakes, and just, a complete nature setting.
Yeah.
And then it followed with,
that gave me chills when you said that. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and then it followed. So that was one of the reasons. Another reason was we're centrally located in the continent of North America, with Rugby being our geographical center. And Mr. Udall was really what was really concerned about this road connecting our Canada and the United States. And at the time, there was just a trail in here. It wasn't actually a road. It was just there wasn't a customs building at the time. And so they did this road into the Peace Garden. And this road now comes from Flin Flon in northern Manitoba all the way down to Mexico. So essentially connects the two countries. The land being donated by the province of Manitoba and the state of North Dakota was also, a huge factor because, money was certainly an issue at that time during the Depression. And so, they just decided to settle on this location and followed with the dedication on July 14th in 1932 with the erection of the cairn, and over 50,000 people gathered here for the dedication on that day. It was a huge celebration. There were ball games, lacrosse games, tug of war on the border, airplane rides, and it was just huge celebration. In my years in interpretive programming, I had the opportunity to speak with people who had been at the dedication, and they would just beam when they talked about being here. And one couple in particular from Boissevain, Jake and Alina Dick, who have unfortunately since passed, bless their hearts, but they would come every Sunday to the building where I was doing interpretive programming, and they would tell me about their experiences in the garden, and especially with the dedication. And they would. I remember one time Helena said to me, sorry to keep you from your work. They were talking with me, and I said, Helena, this is my work. It's just such a joy, like finding out experiences from people that had lived it, because that wasn't, that's how I had to learn more about it.
Debra, do you know, and that regarding that tug of war, do you know who won that tug of war across the border?
I have to laugh about that because school groups ask me that all the time when I tell them.
Okay.
And I don't know who won, but I know it was competitive, and there was a winner. And so it's something that I haven't come across yet in the archives, but I hope I do.
Yeah, for sure.
It may not matter.
No,
really.
No, it doesn't.
So
or a picture of it.
I have a question as long as we stop, and then you can continue. How were the borders of the garden decided, and are they much larger than they were before? I noticed that there's more land that encompasses the garden in Canada than there is in the United States. And how did all these things get decided?
Yes, and they had settled on the 49th parallel was what they had settled on for the border. And there is some information out there, it's maybe not 100% precise, but they settled on it. And so, yes, then we had the province of Manitoba donate 1,451.3 acres of land to the garden, and the state of North Dakota donated 888 acres. So the garden covers a total area of 2,339.3 acres to be exact. And of that acreage, 160 acres is the formal and sunken garden area that goes right along the border from the east side to the west side of the garden.
One of the first time that our family ever was at the International Peace Gardens, I believe was probably about 1962. And I have never seen so many beautiful flowers as there were, especially in those sunken gardens. It was just phenomenal. And I still have a picture in my mind of it. It really had a lasting impression. on me.
Yes, let me just grab I've got a picture here of, this would have been a design in the early 60s.
Oh my goodness, it's gorgeous.
Yeah, and also this is kind of a view of it. I know there's a bit of reflection on the page there, but the view of it, and you'll see all the flagstone there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, they had the flagstone with grass in between it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was on both the upper and lower terrace and in front of the chapel. And it was since replaced in 1995, just due to accessibility. It was not as smooth walking over it with the grass in between, and for wheelchairs and strollers and that type of thing. But we do still have 2 walkways bordering each of the parking areas with that original flagstone, which is kind of cool to keep that little bit of history there.
Well, the design of the garden is so geometric. That's gorgeous, and the color contrast. Now, do those plantings, those flowers, I'm assuming they're all annual flowers. They're planted each year. And, and does that geometric shape change sporadically?
It does. So they are all annuals in the formal garden area. So the horticulturist will design the beds based on our theme. So and that's really changed over the years. We didn't always have a theme, which, would have contributed to the more geometric designs. And then we ended up with themes. I recall one year we had a bug theme. So we had like the butterfly and the ladybug and all that into the designs. Last year, our theme was children's books and reading, which was a lot of fun. And we had the Clifford the Big Red Dog and his bone, and the letters and the numbers, the old wooden blocks, and the Wizard of Oz, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter's glasses. That was a real hit. And we had kind of books, story boxes, and story time in the garden and things to support the theme. This year, our theme is peace. And our designs are going to be a little more focused on creating a feeling of peace. So a combination of flow and color. So as you tour through the garden, you can experience that peaceful feeling.
Because someone toured the gardens last year doesn't mean that they were going to see the same floral display this year if they would go.
No, absolutely not. It's different every year. And we plant, anywhere from 60 to 80,000 annuals. And then we also have our sunken garden, which is perennials. And so from early spring to late fall, you can come there and find all kinds of different perennials in bloom. It's like a huge we do have a actual certified pollinator garden, but it also is like a huge pollinator garden.
Oh, wonderful. So do you have AI helping you design?
No, it's our horticulturists. They think of the designs, they sketch them out, and then they, take it from and they have to think about, they're thinking about what flowers are going to work for what colors in the design. And sometimes, you have to select, you might want a certain flower, but maybe it's not, you can't get it in a certain color. So, you're looking at all of those factors and looking at height and looking at how far apart they're planted. And then they take that into like a graph paper idea where they have, then they have to figure out, how many flowers are required in every design. And usually those designs are in place by October. So we'll be working on designs for 2026 now, and so that you can actually get the flowers ordered.
Yes.
I would think that there might be somewhat of a limitation with perennials because of how far north in the continent that you are.
Mhm.
Yes, the perennials do have to be good for our climate. And I'm not as familiar with that piece, but I have heard the horticulturists, talk about that with tourists that visit the garden, because they'll be asking if a certain perennial would grow where they live. And so they talk about that.
Well, this requires a huge staff, one would think. Can you tell us about the staff, where they come from, what their background is?
Well, we have staff from both sides of the border, and our horticulturists that they're leading the different areas. They do have horticulture training. So we've got Johannes and Jonah are in the cacti and succulent collection, kind of Johannes overlooking the sunken garden. We've got Meredith is the sunken garden, and we've got Beverly, who is in the display bed. And under each of them, they have staff that work for them. And some of those staff have been here, keep coming back. So they do have experience, and with the planting and weeding and all of that with the horticulture. So but we're always looking for, new staff and covering those different areas. So like we've got sunken garden, formal garden, and then we've also got front gate, gift shop, grounds, and buildings. So we do require, we're looking now, and some horticultural staff have already been secured for the season. So yeah, we don't have, it's not a large staff, and we, because of our location, we do struggle. We do have staff housing for staff, so that has really helped, where staff can stay in our cabins and pay a kind of a nominal fee for staying throughout the summer to work. And that's allowed us to have staff from a distance as well.
Okay.
So do you give young students an opportunity for an internship for a month or several months or whatever?
Yes, I mean, absolutely. We encourage that for sure. Like we welcome students to come here and do internships, in the area of horticulture. And we do have master gardeners come in we do have a master gardener day on set for August 16th as a volunteer day, and I take care of that piece. So we've got them, North Dakota master gardeners. We're working with Manitoba master gardeners this year as well. And then just sometimes we have just random people that call and want to volunteer and need to get some time, and we're just encouraging anyone to come and volunteer. I can work out if they can, give us a longer time, a short time. It's great. And we are offering camping. So if they do 12 hours of volunteer with us, they'll get 1 night of camping. So we've had a few people ask about that. So we've explored it and thought, it seems to be, I mean, it'd be nice for them. They can, come and volunteer, stay overnight. So also experience the garden. They get free entrance into the garden if they volunteer as well.
Debra, was there anything special with the Peace Gardens that happened through the 1950s?
Through the 1950s, so we had, we had the work of the CCC in the 1934. until the basically until the Second World War began. They were here, and then that stopped. And they had done an incredible amount of work on the US side of the garden. And then we kind of went into with the World War, and it was combination of, combination of that and just, and funds. So, cost to get going. So we had the work done on the US, like there was the man-made lake built by the CCC, Lake Udall. They did 2 granite and log bridges. They did the picnic areas, the granite and log picnic shelters. The historic lodge was 1938, and that had the logs coming from Riding Mountain National Park in Manitoba, and then the granite right from the foothills of the Turtle Mountains here in North Dakota. And so that was kind of the last big kind of construction. They also did a spillway dam. So a lot of good hard work. And they eventually moved, originally in 35, they were 12 and a half miles north of Dunseith in June. But by August, they were moved right into the Peace Garden. And with their barracks. I do have some pictures of that as well.
Yes.
And then they, so then we had that work, and but I'll just maybe show you here some of their work. So here is this picture always fascinates me. I know, maybe I'll just see if I can pull this up so it doesn't glare, but it fascinates me because you can tell how old these are in their old photo albums. But yeah. This is they're all lined up with their wheelbarrows, and they essentially hauled the dirt out of Lake Udall. So it was named after William Udall. They hauled the dirt out of the lake there to build up the spillway dam. And some of their, I have a picture of the, so these were the barracks. So you can kind of see the barracks that. Sure.
They look of that vintage.
Yes, and they did trails, gravel roads. Here's a picture of the bridges. The bridge they did right here.
Yes.
And then here they're working on a shelter.
How many, and this would have been only gentlemen, I'm sure. How many gentlemen would have been involved in that CCC project?
Oh, there were, I did count them, and I've since forgotten the number. They were a large group, very large group, and I did chat with a gentleman from Minot. His wife was on one of my tours, and, it was great. They loved the work. And he would talk, though, about the boulders that they brought in were so big that one time when they took the boulder off of the truck, it tipped the truck. So that gives you an idea of what they had to work with to chip or they pounded in the 3 wedges to split the granite. That's the word I was thinking of, to split the granite into the rectangular pieces. So this is Lake Udall, 42 feet deep by 400 feet wide, and that's completed. So they did all the spillway dam is over here, right over here. And then they did all the planting of like 9,000 trees and clearing everything out. So then after the work of the CCC, then until we received funding by the United States Congress and the government of Canada, that funding was secured in 1949. And so it was in the early 50s. Then they began the work on the formal and sunken garden area. So the upper terrace and the pond, lower terrace and developed those gardens. Unfortunately, something that I just recently learned, I wasn't sure when Dr. Moore had passed, and he had passed in September of 46. And I thought, oh, he never really got to see his idea come to fruition. And what he did with, the garden was started with the dedication, but I was thinking more of the garden because he was a horticulturist. And, but then I thought, he planted this seed. It was planted in the hearts and minds of people and children. And it was just, it seemed to be so strong that it seemed to just have this force behind it. That was, and I think that then as we went into the 1950s, and then we had, after that, then we had in 1955, it was Judge John Storman, who just wanted to make sure I have that date right. Yes. So Judge John Storman, he initially ended up being chairman of the garden for 10 years. Then he was secretary for 12 years. And then he became president in 55. So he was for 16 years, he was president. So he was involved in the garden for 40 years. But then after he left the president, he still remained involved with the board. So it was really over 40 years. And during his time, there were many things happened. The Royal Canadian Legion began their athletic camp in 1962. There was the Boulevard Floral Clock. So our floral clock has always been very popular in 1966. And there was the Eric F. Willis Pavilion, the centennial gift to the Peace Garden named after Eric F. Willis, who was Lieutenant Governor of Manitoba. And that was in 67. And then the Caroline Bell Tower, the Order of Eastern Star Peace Chapel in 1970, and the Caroline Bell Tower in 1976. So much happened under his command. And we do have Lake Storman in the garden on the Canadian side named after Judge John Storman. And the lake by the CCC, Lake Udall, was named after William Udall. So,
and when did the music camp begin?
Yes, I was going to mention the music camp as well. The music camp began in 1956, and it was founded by Merton Garden. I believe they had 115, maybe somewhere in there. But the music camp, that was then. It's expanded to, they see thousands of students now in a summer. And I've worked at the gate for so many years that people just love, they just love coming back. Like to listen to kids coming back over and over again to the camp. And the athletic camp was, they come for training in sport areas, like with the music camp, different musical, fine arts, drama, different areas. The athletic camp was, track and field, basketball, volleyball. They even had equestrian for some years. I had a daughter attend that camp. And it was kids, good quality, much like the music camp, excellent, good quality instruction for the kids. And then it just over time, just the attendance declined. And so we just have the site. The site is still there, but it's currently not being used for anything.
So Debra, when people come to the International Peace Gardens, they see so much more than flowers, beautiful flower arrangements. And tell us all, can you just list the items that would be seen there?
Okay. So they can, many people love to do the walk of the formal and sunken gardens. So, they're seeing the flowers, but along that 3/4 mile walk, they're also seeing our 9/11 memorial site, our Caroline Bell Tower, the Order of Eastern Star Peace Chapel, which is beautiful as well. They can visit the North American Game Warden Museum. So we, work closely with the museum for programming for kids and field trips, but adults, there's no extra charge for them to go there and just tour through this wonderful museum, dedicated to conservation and the preservation of wildlife and the work of the conservation officers. They can, we have many trails in the gardens. So if they're, people that like to hike or bike, they can do the trails. A lot of people like biking the drives. The drives are 3 and 3.5 miles each. So a lot of people like that. We do have a designated bike path on the US Drive. And there's our cacti and succulent collection, of course, 500 cacti and succulents, which will soon be going into bloom here in the garden. May and June are their prime kind of blooming months, although they do bloom into July. They're loving their environment in the conservatory. And so people are welcome to tour through there. They can book tours. So I'll do tours for 2 people, 50 people. I've done, a variety of tours for people, and they can also book a tour with Johannes and Jonah with the cacti and succulent collection as well. We have many picnic areas. Some people just like to come in and picnic, and it's just a great place just to experience peace and serenity. It really is.
Is there a spot where your one leg could be in the US and the other leg can be in Canada?
Yes, there is. There's many, but the common one that people seem to like, well, there's a couple that people seem to like. One is on the upper terrace. So you're overlooking the whole garden, which is a beautiful view. And yep, you can stand there, and people have stood there with one leg on one side and one the other, or they've stood there and shook hands across the border, which is pretty neat. And the other spot is in front of the chapel. And that's a nice spot as well, as the chapel does straddle the Canada-United States border. So it's a nice spot being in front of the chapel. And there's another spot in front of the channel that sometimes people will do that as well. We do have a channel that marks the border on the way on the walk, so they'll see that.
Debra, and we're nearing the end of our chat, and I'd love to ask you this question in closing is, in your years of experience of being employed at the International Peace Gardens, is there one experience that really stands out in your mind?
I've had so many. I think, for me, because I've just love all the experiences I have with people. I think what's happened to me being here for so many years is, I was a university student, and the garden being here was a job. And then I would keep coming back after university and in the summer months. And the Peace Garden became so much more than that. It became a part of who I am. And so I think, and peace, I'm a huge advocate for peace. I love what the garden stands, our mission, spreading peace between nations while enriching people's lives through conservation, art, culture, education, and recreation. And I think that that's what's really nurturing for me, and just my love of I don't know, helping people experience this garden and the peace that that exists here.
Thank
And I've just had so many experiences, you know, at the gate and everywhere I've worked here. I think one experience was, I guess if I had to share one that really sticks in my mind is the Order of the Eastern Star would always come into the garden with a pilgrimage every few years. And for many years, I would tour them. And then the one year they were going to go to the music camp. Or not to the music, to the Masonic Auditorium for a performance. So it wasn't connected to the music camp. And, but we went in there and it was in the Masonic Auditorium and all the doors were open. And I remember the mosquitoes just being so bad that we were trying to, you know, I was in, at the time we could wear a skirt or shorts, and I was in a skirt, and they were, you know, just saying, you know, why are you in a skirt? All these mosquitoes. And they had repellent, and they had bought the wristbands, you know, that repel mosquitoes. And I've written a collection of poems on the garden, and I did write a poem on that experience. So that was
good for you.
They're just lots of fun ones. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Viewers, we are so delighted that you joined us today to learn more about the International Peace Gardens, this wonderful, beautiful site on the border between North Dakota and Canada. Thank you so much, Debra McCallum. We're just grateful, so grateful that you joined us and gave us some of that his story of the development of the International Peace Gardens.
You're so welcome. I'm always happy to share about the Peace Garden.
I can see that. It's a part of your soul, it seems. And viewers, if you've watched this, you have been fortunate to have learned so much more about this particular special garden that advocates peace between neighbors. So until next time, tell your friends, even your relatives, about this 1950s fun chat. Toodaloo.